Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community talk that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, you can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio, YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, talk that get results. We have two segments of the program this evening for you. First edition, we'll be talking with some folks. We'll be doing some health matters. Every year around this time, we speak with this group of people, and we hope, of course, that we're making some inroads in that particular aspect of your health. Dr. Glenville Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to the listening audience. Good to be here again.
Okay, we also have from the Renal Society, Dr. Tivon Brown. Doc, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo.
It's good to have you. Is it your first time here?
Yes, it's my first time.
Don't let it be your last.
Never.
Because there are other areas you can come and talk with us in the community. Doc has been here for as long as I can remember, right? Making his contribution. Yes, and with his health tips and all that. That's what we do in the community, right? Okay, and we also have Florine Williams. And this is not the first time, and it's good to have you.
Thank you very much, Webbo. It's nice to be here at Vaughan Radio.
And thank you for your service with the Renal Society as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and Genesia Pemberton. Good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and everyone listening tonight.
And I see you are a dietitian.
Yes.
Any tips on diet tonight? No?
We'll get into some
we'll
tips.
Get into some of that. Okay. That's very good, because everybody is diet conscious and so on these days, and it helps in healthier, happier, and longer life. Right now?
Definitely.
Okay, so there you go. We got
once we eat every day.
Okay, so there you go. And then maybe when the camera is showing her, then we will look as petite and super as her, right? Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we go around the table and everyone make an opening comment, and then, the specific reason why we're here. You come every year, and then we get into our full discussion.
Okay, so this is the month of March, and every year worldwide, the International Nephrology Society and the World Kidney Federation, they celebrate World Kidney Day, the second Thursday in March every year since 2006. And we in Nevis have been observing this event since the inception. The Renal Society was formed in 1999, so we preceded the establishment of World Kidney Day by about 7 years. So we've been celebrating it from the inception, since we learned of it. And so we are here again bringing awareness to this important condition.
Hi, Webbo. This is Florine Williams. I'm the PRO for the Nevis Renal Society, and my job is a very good one that I love, that I interact with people, and I try to raise funds for the events and try and reach out to the persons who are being affected by kidney disease.
Okay. Hi, Webbo again. This is Dr. Tivon Brown. I'm a new member of the Renal Society, and I was seeing them. They come to Dr. Leber's office and do their meetings there, and I just found it really interesting, and I found the group really powerful, and the reach, I love the reach, and I want to be a part of that, and try to get to reach more people, and try to spread the message a bit.
Yes, and my name is Janice Pemberton. I'm a registered dietitian, and my role tonight is just to speak on the importance of your diet as it relates to the preventative as well as the management and treatment for chronic kidney disease.
Okay, so not everybody knows renal and thus renal society. Some of us know it has some connections probably with the kidneys, right?
Definitely.
And we are so why don't we do this, Doc, first? Let us do a little opening comment as if we have some new listeners who do not know what this thing is all about. And let's do that first, and then we go from there.
Okay, so in the body, at the back, just under the diaphragm, there are two bean-shaped organs called the kidneys. They're the size of your fist. When you have a fist clenched, so that's the size of your kidney. So if you want to imagine how big your kidneys are, the size of your fist. But these two organs, they have a very important role to play, and in the regulation of blood volume, production of red blood cells, and getting rid of waste from the body. So they are very important, and if these organs fail, then you need to replace their function. And there are strategies, techniques that have been developed over the years, but the emphasis we want to place is on prevention, that by following certain basic health guidelines and conditions, you could prevent them from failing or manage them if they're showing signs of coming on the threat at an earlier stage. So we want to emphasize early diagnosis, preventative care, and that listen to the guidelines, get checked in with your physician and healthcare providers, and get to understand in more detail the important function of the kidneys.
Yes, and then also we have to consider what the risk factors are for the development of chronic kidney disease. And the major risk factors would be diabetes and hypertension. And so it's very important that persons who have diabetes and hypertension are screened annually to ensure that their kidneys are functioning optimally, and also persons who are diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, they must also ensure that they're practicing the right habits, are being involved in the right habits in order to prevent the progression of chronic kidney disease. Right.
So I just want to emphasize both the messages, prevention and lifestyle management. That's my area in medicine, and I believe in it heavily. Prevention is always better than cure. So it's important that we go out, get the screenings, take the recommendations to live a healthier lifestyles in terms of diet and exercise and movement, and basically do our annual checks, and if there's anything wrong, we could pick it up in the early years rather than the later times.
And then also in terms of in terms of diabetes and hypertension, there are other aspects that we need to consider. So persons who are overweight, are we getting enough physical activity? Are we eating too much salt? Are we eating too much sugar? To be able to regulate or preventing, and by preventing, or from eating too much salt, eating too much sugar, that would help to prevent diabetes. It would help to prevent hypertension, which would inevitably help to prevent getting chronic kidney disease.
Definitely. And we must emphasize that these conditions they are silent. Mm-hmm. They are silent killers.
Yeah.
You won't know you have them unless you go looking for them, doing preventive checks. And some folks are in denial because they don't have symptoms, so they think nothing is wrong with them. And so the biochemical, physiological parameters can change without you knowing, and waiting for symptoms to appear can be dangerous and deadly, because by the time you have symptoms, the damage to the organs will have been far advanced and maybe beyond reversal.
And those, you have hypertension, which is fairly prevalent in the black community, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And definitely in our society. And then you have the diabetes.
Yeah.
How, those are two leading causes that can lead to kidney failure if they're not treated properly?
Yes. 90% of cases of end-stage kidney failure are caused by these two. And if you have one, fine, but if you have two, it's even worse, right?
But it's not automatic kidney failure.
No, these conditions can be managed.
Okay.
They can be managed. And that's the point you want to get across, that by diagnosing early and doing the regular checks and treatment plans that have been validated to get them under control, then you could prevent further damage to the kidneys.
When you have these two main causes, as you said, the high blood pressure, the diabetes, and they're not managed properly, and it leads to kidney failure, what other organs, if any, can be a resulting factor, can fail as well?
Well, there's knock-on effects on all the organs.
Because
The diabetes is a widespread metabolic disease. It affects every organ in the body. And how it does that, it attacks blood vessels. I mean, the blood sugar is way high, too high, higher than normal. And sugar sticks on to proteins within the body. Proteins are structural and functional parts of the body. I mean, they are like the workhorses of the body. And when these proteins become stuck down with glucose, they lose their functionality. So the enzyme, the hormones, the antibodies, the cell membranes, they become dysfunctional. And that's how diabetes damages the body. Now think of the kidney as a sieve, right? A sifter. You making guava juice, right? So you put the guava in the sieve and you're putting pressure on it. Okay, if the sieve itself is soft, the mesh could burst easily, right? So diabetes soften the fabric of the sieve, and then you add the pressure on top of that. You put in more pressure, then the seed from the guava and all the other stuff will enter into the filtrate, and so you have everything coming through. And that's how the kidneys are damaged by both the pressure and the diabetes. The kidneys become leaky. So proteins that are in the bloodstream, the sugar in the bloodstream, begin to appear in the urine. And when you have add pressure to all that, then it accelerates the damage that diabetes will cause to the kidney membrane filtering surface.
So urination is a consequence, a problem as well?
Yeah, the kidneys produce urine, and so you could tell the quality of the kidney function by the quality of the urine that it produces, right? So doing a simple urine test could tell you a lot about how the body is functioning from the kidney perspective.
And a lot of stuff, the energy that the body gets is a consequence of the type of blood flow that you have. So if the blood is not flowing as it should, that's why other organs get affected.
Yes, the blood is a transport medium that carries the nutrients around the body. We could go into the circulatory pathways of different substances, but the blood flow to a large extent is regulated by the kidney, the blood volume by the kidney. So when the kidneys are not working well, then the blood volume, the blood dynamics can also be affected adversely.
So if a person were to say to me, because everybody likes to, somehow I'm easy to fool. You find that so down?
No.
So that if a person were to say to me that they have kidney failure, but it doesn't affect other organs of their bodies, don't believe them.
Depends on the degree of affection of the organs, right?
Yeah.
But there are a knock-on effects.
But it failed. Both kidneys fail.
Yeah,
So that's a serious issue.
Yeah.
definitely.
And what is insulin persistent? Resistant, yes. And is it the same as being diabetic?
Tiffany, you could take that one.
Insulin resistance is a condition in the body where the cells, they don't respond to insulin like they should, and this increases the sugar levels inside the body. Now, it's not necessarily the same as being diabetic, but diabetics have insulin resistance. Now, you could get insulin resistance from just being overweight, obese, being inactive, other metabolic conditions as well. But insulin resistance is a general term that falls into a bunch of different disease categories.
So based on what you just explained, though, so it leads me to ask, you said because of inactivity, for instance, and so on. So can it be reversed if you
Yes.
become active? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a, if you're told you're insulin resistant, it's not like a death sentence.
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
Okay, I'll add further. I mean, insulin is a hormone that is geared towards building tissues. It helps with the absorption of nutrients, transfer from the bloodstream into the active tissues where it is utilized, where they are utilized. So when you have too much body mass, too much fat, then the insulin that the body now produces is tied up maintaining this mass of body tissues. And so the regular functioning of insulin now becomes affected. And so losing that weight frees up insulin that can be used for the transfer of nutrients from the bloodstream into the tissues. Because whenever we eat food, the body releases insulin to match the food that you consume, to drive that food from the bloodstream into the liver, the cells of the body, that way the food is being properly processed at the metabolic level.
That is why sometimes when you do your annual health checkups, doc will take your weight and it will say, well, why don't we try and lose X pounds, you know, something like that.
Exactly,
That's-
because our weight should be proportional to our body frame, right? And if we have more weight than our body size, than the skeletal frame, then that becomes a problem for the body as well, because you have to maintain all that extra weight. It's like you're driving a mini moke up the hill with
A
too
load,
much
heavy load.
right? You can strain the engine, and the gearbox.
You know, Doc, I always wanted to have a debate on that, you know, because this chart that they have, I don't know if it considered, you know, you have different races and persons with diets and stuff like that. You look at a fella like me, and based on the chart, I'm about 50 or 60 pounds overweight. That can't be.
Well, the weight is based according to your ideal weight should be according to your skeletal frame, and the skeletal frame determines the optimum weight that the body can carry. Some races, so to use that term, but some tribes have different skeletal structure,
Right.
you know, and so that determine, you know, the amount of weight that they will potentially develop, you know, because of the small skeletal size, etc. You know.
So that explanation makes more sense to me, because some persons in our tribe, you can, if you call it that, you see them and the frame that they have. A local term we use, they carry the weight well.
Yeah. Yes.
Very active.
Yeah.
And if they lose, you know, 20 or 30 pounds of that, they're looking sick.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I mean, that's all part of the morphology of body mass, body weight, and so on. And these statistics were developed by largely on Caucasian people, you know. And so we Afro-Negro scientists have to do our own research and
Yeah.
develop proper metrics for our population. And you know, it is coming.
Yes,
It's coming as
yes.
more and more of us, you know, get into research and collecting data, and Devon have that interest. So maybe he will be a leading light in years to come. You know.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, because even outside of the strict topic of health, even in terms of behavioral patterns, a lot of books are written, management books, how to deal with certain behaviors, and they did this things from studies and made these conclusions and suggestions. But a part of none of our race and peoples were part of that population which they studied. And so when we apply those solutions, most of the times it don't work.
That's correct, Ken. But I mean, certain things in life are fundamental and universal. So, despite
some basic things,
the morphology, the geography, and so on, then certain principles will still stand true. But when it comes to working out the specific details, then yes, you need to take into factor the genetics, the cultural factors as well.
Okay, so back further on, I guess most of the time, Doc, you could realize, even if nobody listens, I enjoy when we have the discussions on health and these kind of things. I don't know why people don't like them. But okay, so I know we have this month of March, and you have certain things specific that you want the public to know of. So why don't we go there now?
Definitely. So over to you, Florian.
Okay, in the month of March, we usually have planned events. We started on Saturday, March 9th. We worship at the Beulah Seventh-day Adventist Church at Camps with Pastor Otis and his congregation. Monday, we have the Minister of Health, Janelle Nisbet, made an address. Tuesday, the 12th, which is tonight, of course, we have in Let's Talk with Mr. Webbo. We have a panel discussion, which we have Dr. Liebert, we have Tivon Brown, we have Denise Pemberton, who is a dietitian. And Wednesday, which will be tomorrow, the 13th, we're going to have a health talk in both schools. That will be the secondary and the Gingerland High School. On Thursday, which is World Kidney Day, we have an awareness session at the Memorial Square, starting from 12 to 1. And then Saturday, of course, and then Thursday, we're going to have an interview with one of our clients on NTV TV. So please tune in tomorrow, Thursday, to hear that interview with one of our clients, which will be really, with the challenging they're all going through. And Saturday, of course, we have the 16th. We're going to close the curtain. We're going to have a pre-Easter breakfast, which we're going to do ground provision. And, of course, mackerel and a special fish. And it would be at the opposite Best Buy supermarket in Gingerland, next to the Gingerland High School, starting at 6 a.m. And in May of this year, we usually have our annual walkathon, and that would be in May, the time to be announced at a later date, so keep that time in mind, the month of May. And we're looking forward for your continuous support, and we would like to take this opportunity to give a handsome thanks to all the establishment and individual always generously support us.
Okay, so those are basically the events. What else, if we were to go back, that we can encourage people in terms of the diet? Let's look at that in
Okay, so in terms of the diet, if we're speaking about prevention, of course, we're going to try to prevent the diabetes, hypertension, as well as overweight and obesity. So it's very important that, in general, our culture and our community, we tend to eat a lot of starch. We tend to eat a lot of sugars. We tend to eat highly processed foods, highly fatty foods, and highly seasoned foods. So that's extremely salty foods. And of course, by consuming those types of foods for a prolonged period of time, that could lead to the development of diabetes, hypertension, and eventually chronic kidney disease. Also heart disease as well. And so what should be encouraged is to have persons focus on the carbohydrates or the starches. We want you to focus on more complex carbohydrate foods. So those are foods that are high in fiber. So this would look like, for example, switching from the white bread, the white potatoes, the cassavas, the tanias, as well as white pasta, to switching to more multi-grain, whole grain foods and products. As far as the starches, of course, starches that are higher in fiber, the starchy vegetables, which would be more like breadfruit or green banana or sweet potatoes or yams. And so in terms of the and of course to try to eliminate the consumption of sugar sweetened beverages sugar sweetened beverages and sodas. So that would be in terms of the sugars. And as it relates to the fats, we have to get into eating more healthier fats. So we tend to eat a lot of pastries, a lot of cookies, a lot of cakes. Christmas time we eat in our Christmas cakes with black cake, hams. And so we have to get into focusing on healthier fats. So that would look like using olive oil, for example, avocado oil, walnut oil, or plant-based oils. Also the fish as well. Try to focus on more lean fish options instead of processed meats. So that would be, of course, the best ones would be the fish high in omega-3s, which would be salmon. It would be sardines, tunas, mackerel, of course, unsalted. So those are the best or the better forms of fish. Lean meat such as chicken breast. If you're eating chicken, try to remove any visible fat, any of the skin. Also avocados are good, and nuts. We tend not to eat a lot of nuts and seeds or even if we are eating nuts, we would focus more so on salted nuts or honey roasted nuts. So nuts also having in healthy fats as well. Seeds such as chia seeds, flax seeds, try to incorporate that into your smoothies, and that's also a way to get more fiber. So not only the fats, but you're getting the fiber into your food option.
The one thing that you hear people complain, all that is good.
Yes.
However, to eat healthy, they argue, is very
Expensive.
Not
Yes.
really.
Not really, I don't think so.
Not really.
Not really.
Not really?
Use
Okay.
a backyard garden.
Well, let's hear that then, because I'm telling you what I hear.
Yeah.
So if you got a counterpoint to that, let's
Yeah.
hear it.
And then even in terms of the cost now, so there are alternatives. So for example, starchy vegetables, some persons may not be able to afford brown rice or multigrain bread, but there are alternative starches that you could use. For example, and then even being able to make your own bread at home, that is an option instead of having to purchase the imported breads, which those tend to be the multigrain breads that we get here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I don't find that there is a wide variety of multigrain bread, but you could make your own bread at home. We tend to purchase oats. Oats is something we tend to purchase. Also, if we could purchase seeds as well, if flax seeds, for example, you could make your own bread at home, or you could swap to using starches such as the yams or green banana or breadfruit, which is in our backyard. That is an alternative to incorporate the fibrous, high fiber alternatives into our diet. Also, when it comes to bread, you don't have to necessarily choose bread. You could use Crick's crackers. Crackers is also bread as well, but you could use a multigrain or whole wheat option as far as the starches go.
Well, what are some of the health? You mentioned oats.
Yes.
What are some of the health benefits of
Of oats?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to oats, there are different forms of oats. So you have the quick oats, 1 minute oats. You also have rolled oats, and you also have steel cut oats. So the benefits of oats are, in general, the fiber, the unprocessed meal options or grain options, they are higher in fiber. And if you actually were to see an unprocessed grain, it would look like something that's in a husk, or it's trapped in a material that is very hard. The body is unable to digest the husk, and so whenever we process any type of grain, we are basically removing that husk. And what the husk does is basically acts as a barrier, or it traps the sugar within that. So whenever we eat unprocessed grains or multigrains, whatever sugar is within it would be trapped. The body is unable to digest the fiber, so it basically seeps out slowly. So you have a more regulated glucose control. So in terms of fiber, we want to focus more so on unprocessed grains, and so options like rolled oats or steel cut oats would be better in terms of regulating your sugar versus the 1 minute quick oats, because the husk has been removed and you don't have that beneficial aspect.
How is, maybe one of the doctors can answer this, one of the things that people argue health-wise we're suffering from is because we are diverting a lot from the practices of old, including what we eat. Then there's a discussion that those of us who are old enough can remember that your grandparents or your parents used to say, well, Epsom salts on Sunday, or and so on and so forth. Some people call it a clean out, and people move away from that. How important is that, if at all?
Okay, well, the prerogative that you mentioned, it helps to get rid of or provoke a diarrhea, get rid of whatever undigested residue that may be causing buildup of gut, bacteria and other gases that could be problematic. But then the point that Janice was mentioning is that the unprocessed food, it gives a slow release of glucose and nutrients from the intestines into the body, and the fiber helps bowel function in terms of the contractility and all that. Now, think of a motor vehicle. You flood the carburetor with gasoline. You can smell it in the exhaust, right? And then it will gum up the piston head because of too much uncombusted petrol inside the pistons. And so that's what glucose, too much refined food does to us. It floods the metabolic system of the body with too much nutrients at once, which it cannot handle properly. And when you have the sugar in the bloodstream higher than a certain amount, then, as I said earlier, it sticks on to proteins throughout the body, because glucose reacts to proteins, a process called glycosylation, and that is where the damage is being done. It's like termites attacking the fabric of your house, right? You can't see it normally, but it's undermining the fabric. And when you do meet a crisis, the body can't withstand, because the enzymes, the hormones, the antibodies, they have been stuck up with glucose, and so the body can't fight all these stresses anymore. And so you get a cut, it takes long to heal. You get an infection, it takes long to recover, because the antibodies, the white blood cell that supposed to fight these infections, help the body to heal, they can't function properly because the proteins that are part of the healing process have been stuck up with glucose. And so delaying the absorption from the stomach, one, will control the blood sugar, so the body have more time to handle it, and give the insulin time to work. We talked about insulin resistance earlier on, but when you flood the system, then the insulin becomes swamped, because you're eating too much concentrated, highly refined food rich in glucose, which the body can't handle all at once,
And that insulin is normally being produced by the body.
Yeah, but the converse is that if you're an athlete, you do manual labor, you can burn off all that extra glucose, right? So that people who are physically active, they could consume because they'll burn it off in quick time. But if you're not active, sitting down all day, you're flooding the body with nutrients, with glucose, which is not being used up. So it has to go somewhere, and it costs more.
And the idea is to use up the energy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how, once it's used up.
Well, I mean, if you're not physically active, then you got to reduce your intake. But if you're using refined, if you're using unprocessed food, then you get full faster because the high fiber will fill the stomach. So you don't have to be craving for food, right?
Yeah.
But you eat unrefined food like chocolate and cakes and so on. You want more because it doesn't fill you.
And they're actually very addictive, and studies have shown that it has a similar effect as cocaine. So it's very addictive. Sugar is very addictive.
So in other words, I don't want to go near cocaine. But if I want an addiction, I can do chocolate.
But then at the end, you will get all the problems.
You get all the problems.
Too much sugar
Yeah, but I'll burn it off.
Oh, you exercise.
But you have to exercise in order to burn it off.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Okay. But okay, so heading towards the kidney failures and stuff like that, we in the few minutes that we have left, why don't we look and giving the listening audience some idea of some preventative stuff that we can do, so that we don't head towards diabetes and high blood pressure.
Well, firstly, for me, you are what you eat, so controlling your diet is very important in both of those aspects.
And in the sense of controlling your diet, you have to focus on complex carbohydrates. So that is getting in more fiber into our diet. Try to not focus on the ultra-processed foods. Focus on wholesome foods, foods that are low fat. Don't consume as much sodium. Try to use as much herbs, spices. Also, try to get in as much physical activity as possible. So physical activity should be something that is done on a daily basis and a weekly basis.
At least 30 minutes.
At least 30 minutes of walking, running, jogging. That's something that we could do. We don't need a gym to be able to get some physical activity in.
Yeah, that's very important, because I think that when persons are told that they need to do some physical activity, they figure, well, I don't have any money to join up a gym, and so on. One of it is discipline.
Yeah.
And being able to say, well, I'm going to do this. And the other thing you had mentioned, that there are various ways of doing that exercise, right? As you say, you don't have to go to a gym. You can walk. You can even stay in your house and do some exercise, right? So persons need to know that it doesn't.
Yeah. And it could be done at your bedside. You could buy maybe some resistance bands. You don't even need to buy anything. You could even gardening. You could get into gardening, and that's it's some intense physical activity right there. You don't have to necessarily purchase anything. Or walking around your house, dancing, that also counts as physical activity.
And that's because some people are not able to understand how something as simple as just keep moving around can help health-wise.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely. And the one principle of exercise is that you have to increase your heart rate by about 10 to 20%, to show that you get a good workout,
Yes.
And that helps to improve the overall circulation, because blood flows to all parts of the body. You keep the blood vessels wide open, remove the waste as well. You sweat, and so exercise has many benefits to it, in terms of more than just burning off fat, but at least it improves the general functioning of the entire body.
Yeah. And there's also, in terms of preventative measures, smoking as well. Try to eliminate smoking as well as alcohol consumption. And I think in our culture, some persons tend to have an excessive amount or consume an excessive amount of alcohol. And so that is also increases your risk for the development of diabetes and hypertension, and it would also impact your ability to be able to manage any chronic disease.
Those two points that you just made, which are actual factors in the society, the heavy consumption of alcohol, they seem to be a myth around it.
Yeah.
And the point that you just made, that it can lead to your issues with diabetes.
Yes.
Right? And also the smoking. Maybe we can expand on that a little in terms of, because when we refer to smoking before, we used to refer to cigarettes.
Yes.
Somehow some folks are of the impression, maybe they're right, I don't know, the doctors will let us know, that the marijuana and so is okay where smoking is concerned, and it doesn't give you that cancer and those kind of other health defects.
Well, no, because all forms of smoking is bad for the body. When you smoke that unfiltered smoke, it goes into your lungs, you get tar, you get all kind of different chemicals entering your body, and that's never good. Also these days, a lot of people, even when they use the marijuana, they tend to add brown tobacco into it as well, so they still get the negative effects of the tobacco.
Okay, so that's very important, because so maybe when we're discussing those alternate forms of smoking, maybe those need to be highlighted as well, because as I said, some people of the view, because when they market this stuff, they seem to be saying that this thing is pure, etc., 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 and so maybe that ought to be a part of the debate as well. So we so happy to have you. Can everybody, we go around and make a closing comment?
Okay, so the take-home message from my point of view is that 80 to 90% of persons with these conditions do not know they have it, and that's the way the danger lies. So do not wait for symptoms. There's enough technology to know how your body is performing. Go and get tested early. Early diagnosis leads to better outcome. Prevention is always the best cure, and of course, as Dr. Tivo will say, we are what we eat. And prevention is better than cure. So pay attention to your diet, and Janice is around to give us specific information how to plan a proper meal plan and all that.
Okay, the Nevis Renal Society continues its effort to improve the health and well-being of our clients affected by kidney disease and renal failure. Also to bring awareness to the general public for the prevention of kidney disease. And Webbo, please give me a minute. Let me ask Dr. Leiber the question, and Dr. Tivan. So you are saying that renal failure or kidney failure is because of hypertensive and diabetes?
To a large extent.
Yeah, the largest.
Yeah.
The reason why I ask, as you are aware, I have a son, nephew who had renal problem, failure, yes, and at that time he was 9 years old. He wasn't hypertensive, he wasn't diabetic.
Well, there is a condition called glomerulonephritis where you get a bacterial infection, a sore throat, and the body produces antibodies, which these antibodies damages the kidney.
Oh, okay. Because at the time he was 9 years old and he was doing well and everything until maybe like 30 plus years he came back and haunt him, and now we have a kidney transplant. So that's why I asked the question, to clarify that.
Yeah, so there are those conditions where some infections could have secondary effects which could damage the kidneys.
About 5 to 10% of kidney disease is genetic as well.
Genetic. Okay.
So my take home is, doctors and other healthcare professionals, we're not scary people. We're all about people. We're all about getting people better. So, don't feel afraid to come out, get your regular checks, see a friendly face, and, improve your lifestyle.
Yes.
Before you go, I have a few patients who manage diabetes for many years without any medication, insulin and tablets, right? By just listening to simple advice of eating healthy, exercising, right? Take them off their insulin, off their metformin, Deonil, and for many years they maintain the A1C to under 7%, under 6.5%, keep the sugar in control for many years, and it can be done, but you need to be disciplined, as we said earlier. And so,
Yes. And then
but the thing is that these people were diligent. They came often, they check, they do the test every 2-3 months, follow the plan, because they've accepted the advice and they saw the evidence that yes, these things do work, once you follow the guideline. But if you go eat bad and don't check, then you will go away thinking, oh, all is well, no symptoms, and then 4 or 5 years later you come back with a stroke, or your kidneys have packed up because they were silently being damaged. So don't wait for symptoms, folk.
yeah.
You think that this you made in the comment you were making, Doc, and you said they eat badly, right?
Yeah.
Now you think if we were able to make the healthier foods more appetizing than the other food, suppose we were able to, whether by magic or do that, because we're eating badly because these foods that we're craving for, which are not good for us health-wise, is because of the taste.
Well, taste can be addictive. And so food producers know how to make food tasty. Very good or bad, And so we got to apply that knowledge of making good food more appetizing.
Okay, so maybe we should work on
it. And then also we have to consider too, a lot of what we are accustomed to, our habits, they are behaviors that were modeled to us from a very young age, and so we have a tendency to focus on a certain food, ultra processed foods, because from a young age, for some persons, this was what they had available to them primarily for a prolonged period of time. So their taste buds became adapted, or their brain became addicted to a certain type of food. But we would say healthy food is unappetizing because for a prolonged period of time we've been conditioned to like foods that are extremely sweet, extremely salty. So when we do taste maybe a salad, it's like it doesn't taste good to us because it's what has been modeled to us.
Okay, let's see before we go if we can accommodate this listener. Okay, well, if you call back quickly, you might be able to help you. But yes, who else?
Just before
go ahead.
we go, please don't forget our breakfast Saturday. It will be $25 and it will be starting from 6 a.m. in the morning. And the tickets you could purchase from any member of the Nevis Renal Society, or my number is 669-3477. You could always find me by Dr. Glenville Libert office up Ramsbury. So please come and support us. We really do appreciate it.
How are we doing with the numbers though, in terms of persons who contract the kidney failures and stuff like that? Which direction are we going?
Well, the numbers are increasing, I mean, presently we have about 8 patients living on Nevis who are on dialysis, and there are quite a few behind who are knocking on the doors, And so, I mean, I don't have all the statistics, but some just that cursory knowledge, So, and it's an increasing problem.
Yeah, it's especially in young persons. So the research is showing that younger persons are starting to or being diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. So the numbers are increasing.
And it is showing also it is a consequence of mainly those two major factors, diabetes.
Yeah, lifestyle habits. Yeah, lifestyle.
So we got some work to do where that is concerned.
Yeah, people need to take stock and realize that these silent killers are really killers.
It's
you know?
here, yeah.
I mean,
Some heavy lifting.
And persons tend to underestimate the diet. Persons tend to underestimate that what you eat, it could cause these diseases, and it could also be a non-pharmaceutical approach in terms of treatment and management. So we really need to focus on our diet and our lifestyle habits in order to of course,
okay, let's see if we have that. I'm sorry about that. Okay, thank you for holding. Could you go ahead?
Yes, good evening. A question to the doctors. Could the intake of a large number of, let's say, tablets, medication, contribute to kidney failure?
yes, indirectly as a consequence, because some medication can be toxic to the body and could affect the kidneys among other organs, and especially the painkillers, the ibuprofen and the Voltaren, what they call the NSAIDs. They have been known to damage the kidneys, and some antibiotics as well in high dosages could also damage the kidneys. So these things have to be given under supervision and be monitored carefully for effects on these organs. You know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. All right, so that's what else we got.
Well, we could take the other hour, you know.
Take another hour. God, we have a free ticket to give away, Webbo.
Really?
For the breakfast.
Well, maybe.
Can I ask the question?
Sure, go ahead.
The question is, who was the first president of the Nevis Renal Society, and what year it started? Who was the first president of the Nevis Renal Society, and what year it started? You're going to get a ticket for a free breakfast on Saturday.
Can I answer?
No. You cannot answer. We hope that a caller would call in and give the answer, please. A free ticket for breakfast on Saturday.
Where is that breakfast taking place?
It would be opposite Best Buy, Gingerland Heights. Yeah.
Okay, well, nobody's on the line right now. If you got something else you like to let the public know in the meantime, you can go ahead while we wait for somebody to answer.
I would also say, probably as a motivator as well, for CKD or chronic kidney disease, in terms of your diet, it becomes very restrictive when you get chronic kidney disease, and so I think that should be a motivator for persons to start to eat healthy, because you want to prevent the restrictive component that comes with chronic kidney disease, and it makes it extremely difficult to be able to manage the condition as well, because you won't be able to eat the food items that you've become accustomed to consuming. So that should be a motivator.
Of course, I mean the cost factor of the care, that prevention is still the best cure. And if you be penny wise and pound foolish, then the little you spend on eating healthy, having your own backyard garden where you get healthy fruits and vegetables, compared to the processed foods, could pay great dividends down the road.
Everybody says that. Why don't you have a backyard garden? Because so. Anybody knows why people don't do it? Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, anybody knows why people don't do it? It's so simple. It gives you healthy food and all that. So why people don't do it?
We have gotten out of the habit, during our generation growing up, that was the in thing. Everybody had their little plot where they plant a few cucumber, lettuce, around your house, you have your animal that you look after, you go to pasture. Because we want to grow in society, but development has come to these parts. We switch from agriculture to tourism and other quick money products, you know, and so we abandon the land. We abandon the land to a large extent. But some people are getting back into it. I mean, since COVID, a lot of people have realized that, you know, it's good to get out and plan stuff. So.
And I think also from a personal experience, I've tried, and you also have to consider the pests that we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and it makes it a bit difficult to be able to manage a garden at home, but we have to also consider ways to be more sustainable as far as, you know, the approach in terms of agriculture.
And the other main reason, which not everybody has the courage to say, but I do. It's called work.
Yeah.
It's to also laziness. Right? Am I correct or not?
Webbo, I do that at home very often, to be honest with you, and I love it. It's like a therapy. I love it.
But
so I will encourage, you know, the general public to have your own backyard garden.
Yeah.
You're going to love it.
But are we all in agreement that to do the backyard garden, it takes work?
It takes work.
Yes, definitely.
It does.
And are we all in agreement that that's part of why a lot of people don't do it?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Well, my backyard garden might grow.
You have your. Let me get this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good night, Mr. Herbert. It's all right for us to plant. You know, I had a pawpaw tree with some nice big pawpaw ripening, and I get my pawpaw too. At that time, the monkeys went down Hanley's Road and messed up down there. And then they come back up. After nothing down there, they come back up. And I can barely get a pawpaw now. They eat out the heart of the pawpaw tree and all. And sometimes you put your bananas down in a bag. And they take them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's kind of hard. You know, they pull up your herbs and everything. They dig out your potatoes too. Everything they do, man. So we have to buy. You understand?
So you think that's another factor,
So you have
another reason?
to what have happened at home.
Yeah, the monkeys are a
Yeah,
nuisance.
yeah.
Have an electrical fence.
Monkeys not
And that could be very
Yeah,
costly.
costly.
Good night to you and lovely program.
Thank you
Thank you very much, caller.
Okay. Have a nice night.
You too,
Okay,
thanks.
Thank you.
You know what? I think I'm going to give the ticket to you for the breakfast.
To who? That lady?
Yeah, you
Okay.
you could please call back, please, and let me have your number and your name, please. Or you could check me. My number is 669-3477. 669-3477. I'm going to get the ticket for the breakfast on Saturday.
Okay, that is wonderful. Okay, so it was good as usual to have you on, and my thing is that if it is necessary and you all don't mind, based on what I know about being a teacher, repetition works. And so if we have to do it again and again and again, and we get one or two to change a little, just like they say in Christianity and stuff like that, if one sinner, you know, so whatever it is, we always here to work with you, right? Okay.
Well, in the ever-expanding circle, you know, a pebble in a pond concept, right? The ripples will keep spreading outwards. So you start with who is willing to listen, and we go from there.
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Glenville Liebert, so the final outro for everybody. Let's start with the Genesia.
Okay, so my final thoughts: don't underestimate the diet and the importance it plays in the prevention and management of chronic diseases, as well as your lifestyle in general. I encourage persons to practice eating a well-balanced diet, and that would help to reduce the risk or the prevalence of non-communicable diseases in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Dr. Brown?
Regular prevention is important in preventing these illnesses. Regular screening and regular checkups are very important, and they should be practiced by everyone in order to, have a better idea of where your health status is and how it could stay at a good level.
Florine?
As the PRO, I'm appealing to the general public to please continue support the Renal Society that we could assist our clients with renal failure.
And Dr. Liebert?
And we're all part of the solution because we are part of the problem. If we understand the connection between diet, exercise, and diseases, then we will know how to build a healthy, safer system for everyone to benefit from.
Yes.
Dr. Glenville Liebert, Dr. Tivon Brown, Florine Williams, and Janicia Pemberton, all members of the Nevis Renal Society. We thank them very much, and don't forget to check out their breakfast. When is the breakfast again? When is the breakfast? Saturday. Opposite the breakfast is when? Saturday? Opposite the Best Buy.
Next to the Gingerland High School on the road.
Okay. Okay, very well. So we thank them very much. That's the first segment of the program. We'll be back with the second segment right after these.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
3 acres of elevated vacant land is up for sale. It is conveniently located on the Port Road, overlooking the Bath Cemetery, Charlestown, Nevis, and on a clear day, the view is endless. For more information, serious inquiries, please call Mr. Edric Stanley at 869-665-5634 or 869-469-3868.
Builder's Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builder's Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builder's Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builder's Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
In this episode of Talk That Get Results. Our first segment featured the Nevis Renal Society. They're having an event coming up soon. They're encouraging you to support it on Saturday opposite the Gingerland Best Buy supermarket next to the Gingerland High School. They're having a breakfast there, so you want to support that. And we talk about the work they're doing. The second segment of the program, the Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my colleagues and the many persons who are listening to this edition of the Let's Talk show here tonight. Webbo, I want to say how delighted I am to have sat on the outside and listened to your previous segment. I thought that it provided some very important information that I hope that the general public would pay close attention to and to equip themselves with the necessary requirements in an effort to try and not only protect their kidneys but also to live a much healthier and productive life. Webbo, I want to take this opportunity to offer some condolences to a number of families who are in mourning here on the island of Nevis, and my good friend here in the Stony Grove area, Brian Claxton, who lost his wife, Lisa. I also want to, and the entire Claxton family, I also want to take this opportunity to offer my condolences to my very good friend, the teacher, Carissa David, and the loss of her partner, Carla Strapman, right here from Bath. In my mind, that these are two young persons who I believe would have left us perhaps a bit too soon, but I believe that none of us know when our time will come, but it's up to the Divine Master to call us. I certainly want to offer them my deep condolences, and also to the entire family. But I also want to use this opportunity. I've been off for a few weeks. I also want to take this opportunity to offer my condolences to the family of the late Reggie Libert. He was a long-standing postman here in the Charlestown area, a man who would have been a very good example for the postal service here on the island of Nevis. Always dressed very sharply, very neatly, always did his work very wonderfully, delivering mails throughout the parish of St. Paul's, and I would even dare say here in the Bath Village area. So I want to offer my condolences to that family as well. To all those other families who are in mourning, Webbo, I believe that this is a time when we reflect, when we ponder, and we think about the fond memories of those individuals who we would have lost. So I just thought I would offer my condolences to those various families who are in mourning. Webbo, I also want to take this opportunity to say to all those who are celebrating, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment, tonight or this week, I hope that they are having a wonderful, wonderful time, and I'm certainly hoping that they would be around to enjoy many, many more wonderful celebrations. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation, and I am looking forward to tonight's discussion of part 2.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. You change your thing. Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to you.
Okay, Roger Fifield,
good evening. Good evening, Webbo.
I don't understand why I believe it happens to me alone. Everybody else can get to do things how they want, but when I do things how somebody thinks I'm supposed to do it. If I play a song, somebody thinks I should have played that other song. Whereas when they play the song, it's okay. Anyway, walk with me. Walk with me. Okay. Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. And I want to say a special good evening to my fellow panelists. Also want to say good evening to all those who listening via the World Wide Web, and of course on 860 AM viewing Radio the Powers of the Eastern Caribbean. I listened attentively earlier, the first segment, and I want to say kudos to the doctors and the two young ladies who were in the studio earlier on. I would have learned some things myself, and I really hope that the listening audience would have learned something, because when we look at it, we are who we are who we eat and what we do to our bodies. So I was grateful that they were on, and I indeed learned something. Thank you for the invitation once again, Webbo.
I wanted to say, Brian, when you were talking and referring to when the very first comment you were making about the when the persons were on earlier, and you being a government minister, I said that I don't know if I can get into that arena because I might have made a rule or law or something to make people do certain things where health is concerned, to ensure, you see, as the doctors and them have been instructing, and so that maybe people would have rallied against me or rise up against me, but then in the end we'll probably end up with a much healthier society, because some things it seems to me that we have to be stringent on and if you will force people to do it, even for our own good.
Webbo, you are correct. I think that is the pillars and the tentacles.
By the way, I'm correct because I'm not in government. So
no.
Remember that. Go ahead. So don't try it.
Webbo, I think that is one of the pillars and the tentacles of living in a democracy and a quote-unquote a free society. I think oftentimes the government seek to legislate certain things. We try to implement certain policies, and we try to ensure that the general populace adhere to certain things. Health is one of those areas that I feel that every single government is facing some major challenge with. The one of the important point that was stressed here in the previous segment was about lifestyle, what people eat, what people drink, what people smoke, and that kind of thing. There are some restrictions, so to speak, on alcohol up to a certain age and smoking up to a certain age. The question, therefore, must then be asked: do we want to extend that and put an all-out ban on those kind of things? I think that is a question and perhaps a conversation we can have. But I think that a lot of the challenges that we are seeing across the society, a lot of it is lifestyle inflicted, what we eat, what we drink, and that kind of thing. Do we want to legislate or mandate that people must do 30 minutes of exercise per day? That would be something that, as you say, people might rise up against that. Do we want to say then that we want to ban alcohol? Those are questions, I think, that yes, it will have greater benefit for our society. But like I said, these are some of the consequences of living in a open, free, democratic society where persons are faced with the choice of doing certain things if they wish or if they want, or if they don't want.
Yeah, but sometimes though I get the feeling that you mentioned people smoke what they want, etc., right? And on that particular aspect, I get the feeling that whereas the democracy part of it or the democratic part of it and people allowed to do these things and stuff, I have a feeling though that the debate is sort of too one-sided. For instance, when I spoke with the doctors earlier, and one of them responded to a question that I had put forth, and by saying that these marijuana and stuff and so on and so forth, they're very harmful, right? But they have the benefits in it, which are highlighted. And what I mean by the debate seemingly is one-sided, because to me, the debate is very heavy from all sides on how much money we can make from this stuff. And you're not hearing at the same time, and in a debate you have both sides, democracy too, right?
Yeah.
You're not hearing from the other side, or from the other side of the argument, how harmful it can be as well in terms of the balance. So that is why I say that yeah, it is good, but in a democracy as well, you have the balance, the debate, and to me, in this particular instance, the debate is very heavy, because it seems to me that the main thing that get us all is how much money we probably can get from this thing.
And I often think, Webbo, that very point tends to cloud or skew the various policies. When we think about alcohol consumption, for example, there's a tax on alcohol, but I think that the impact of alcohol consumption or overconsumption of alcohol has been significant. Terrible accidents, injuries to many persons, and those kind of things. Persons innocent bystander can and have been killed because of drunk drivers and so on and so forth. So there is that side of things. The same thing with smoking. Second-hand smoke, persons who have never smoked in their life exposed to second-hand smoke and are affected. So there is both sides of that argument and the impact that it's having on a broad section of the community. And I think that while we seek to structure certain policies and give certain guidance to try and protect the general public, one of the protection in terms of wear your seatbelt or smoke in your own homes or smoke in a open, but I think that oftentimes our people do not always follow those prescription and those guidelines, and we oftentimes see the consequences of not following those.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. A song that you play very often, ready or not. You brought up a little piece about song and whatever it is. Play it for me tomorrow morning. Anyhow, well, it's good evening to my fellow panelists, good evening to the people of St. Kitts, Nevis, and the Caribbean Basin. Further afield, those who view us on the Facebook page, as the case might be. Well, we have to consider the dilemma which is currently in Haiti. Sadly, we have brought that issue to the fore here many times. But Caribbean leaders, I do not understand how they can allow this thing to have gotten out of hand to the extent where it's a war, gang warfare, and those guys are not going to give up that power which they have successfully wrestled from the powers that be, and consequently the Prime Minister has quit. He decided he's not going to go any further, and Washington is behind his final decision. At the same time, we have to guard these spaces, the entire Caribbean, from the hooliganism that has taken place in Haiti. Because we are not very, very far from hooliganism in certain places in the Caribbean. But at the same time, we must begin to cherish what we have to the extent where we ensure that that hooliganism that has engulfed Haiti doesn't reach to our shores. Webbo.
Okay, I wanted to look at this CARICOM free movement that is supposed to be decided upon later in the month. And I have some reactions here from various areas. I'm going to play all of them, put the information in, and then we go into discussion. I have the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis with a clip, and I also have from the BBC the thing that Edric was referring to in terms of the condition in Haiti and so on. So, and then I have a statement here that I extracted from our news in reference to the Bahamas position. That maybe I should do that first, right? The Bahamas government has reiterated its position that the country will not be a part of the free movement of people as the efforts continue to possible amendments to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas that will give a legal basis to the free movement of all Caribbean community, that's CARICOM nationals, by the end of this month. The country's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Fred Mitchell, said in a statement over the weekend, the Bahamian public is reminded that the Bahamas is not a part of the Caribbean single market and economy, and therefore the free movement of people does not apply to the Bahamas, according to the Nassau Guardian. There has been no change in the policy or our treaty arrangements since that time. He added, Bermuda has also indicated it will not be a part of the full free movement. So that's from the Bahamas. I have also a clip from Antigua's position. So I'll just play all those for the benefit of the panel and the listening audience, and then we can look at it further.
St. Kitts and Nevis' position is that anything we do will be in the best strategic interest of St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me put that forward. Nothing we will do to the detriment of St. Kitts and Nevis. So St. Kitts and Nevis' position is we are obviously asking for more data, more information. How will this be implemented? Bring our own issues forward, or will this affect St. Kitts and Nevis? Those are the discussions going on. But in principle, you would want to say integrated region. However, it has to be done in a way where each country will see better, or in a position where the citizens are not convinced that it's to the benefit of their country. And therefore, we are looking at it closely and we are monitoring it. But to say that St. Kitts and Nevis is still part of the process, but we will be a responsible partner in all of it.
We have concern that if we were to allow the unrestricted flow of CARICOM nationals into the country, that it will imperil, among other things, our social services. Sending states do not want to provide any type of assistance to a place like Antigua and Barbuda. Remember, we do not have gold, silver, bauxite, oil. We do not have it. We are optimistic that the heads would accept Antigua and Barbuda's requests and pleadings with respect to utilizing the skills regime, maintaining it in its current status. So we anticipate that those who are not going the route of full free movement will adopt and maintain the skills regime.
The Prime Minister of Haiti, Ariel Henry, has called for calm and a return to stability in the country as he announced his resignation. It came just hours after regional leaders met in Jamaica to discuss a political transition aimed at restoring order in Haiti. The country has been sliding towards anarchy since armed gangs took control of the capital. Haiti's former elections minister, Mathias Pierre, said restoring the government would be a huge challenge.
The gang members occupied most of downtown and some government headquarters. We can say that after prison has been freed, the gangs have been able to reinforce themselves. So we believe that very soon people will be out of food, medication, and any kind of medical support, which get us to the crisis in multiple dimensions: social, humanitarian, economic, and political.
So that's it. We heard with the Bahamas position. We heard Dr. Drew, Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis. We heard the Antigua's position, and we heard from the BBC. You know, we heard a clip and the current position in Haiti. The gangs demanded that the Prime Minister resign because he got in there on a temporary basis, and according to the gangs, he liked what he found, and he wouldn't call the elections, and so they demanded that he resigned, and I suppose that he has done so. So we got a lot of stuff to deal with in the Caribbean. So Bran, why don't you lead off the CARICOM issue and the free movement and so on?
Webbo, I want to start with the position of the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Drew. And his position, I believe, is a position that I think that we can stand by. And it's a position that I feel that all Kittitians and Nevisians need to probably take note of and give some credence to. He indicated that he basically would like to know what the impact would be on the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. But I think that the representative from Antigua and Barbuda would have given some consideration to that, the impact on the social services. Well, right now we have in St. Kitts and Nevis one of the highest minimum wages throughout the region, and especially in CARICOM and the OECS. And if it is that you have persons living and working in Windward Islands, other territories, that is doing, let's say for example, landscaping, waitress, those kind of services, and they are getting a particular wage that is much lower than, for example, St. Kitts and Nevis, there would really not be any hindrance from them to leave their territories to come to St. Kitts and Nevis to work for a minimum wage that is $10.75 per hour. We are seeing that there would be the high possibility of movement from some of those territories to St. Kitts and Nevis in the first instance because of our minimum wage. Also, when we look at our social services, on our healthcare and our education, the movement in itself already provides for access to education of anyone who comes into a territory. That is basically a human right, and it's also a human right for healthcare. We are therefore seeing that we can have the potential of additional persons coming into our various schools and putting additional burden on our healthcare. These are the kind of impacts that I feel that the Prime Minister was speaking about. I think though that St. Kitts and Nevis, in my mind, can do their own impact assessment. And by that I mean, if we were to see an influx of conservatively 2,000 persons, what that impact would have on the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, but we also have some, in my mind, restrictions on what I call non-nationals or foreigners here in St. Kitts and Nevis. For example, our housing program is geared to persons who are from St. Kitts and Nevis, so to speak. It would therefore mean that something like a change in our policy as it regards to our housing and how we deal with housing and provide housing for these individuals would have to change. I think also, Webbo, that while we contemplate this free movement, I feel that we are expecting that there would be an influx rather than more persons leaving St. Kitts and Nevis to go into some of these territories. And one of the main reasons, as I said before, was the minimum wage. I think that would be a big draw to St. Kitts and Nevis. I believe, Webbo, that there needs to be probably a bit more study that can be done on this initiative. I know that there is a present regime that is in place when it comes to certain skills persons. I think that regime can stay in place for a bit longer while a proper analysis is done on the impact on the various islands. Antigua would have voiced their concern. I believe that the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis would have also voiced their concern. Bahamas is very boisterous, so to speak, that they would not be a part of it. But I think that all in all, I think that each territory would have to do their own impact assessment as to what this free movement will cause on their territory, leaving and coming. And I think that it is expected that St. Kitts and Nevis must and should do their own impact assessment. I know the Prime Minister is saying that he needs more information and how that will impact St. Kitts and Nevis. I think that impact assessment needs to come from within, and we need to do that projection to know exactly what that impact would be on our territory.
Well, I just want to chime in here and say that one of the first things that came to mind when I heard the Prime Minister spoke some time ago about the free movement within the CARICOM region, when he speak to more data, is that maybe this is coming a bit too soon. Maybe we should ask for some more time. With time, then we will be able to get the necessary data to inform us going forward. I think today might be the 12th. So we're just about maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away from the end of the month. So I think that is necessary, number one. Two, if we had to speak to Haiti, I think it might have been last week when Jimmy Barbecue, that's the gang leader, he freed over 4,000 prisoners in Haiti. And the clip that we heard, or what you might have read earlier, pertaining to Haiti, is that food, there might be soon a shortage of food, medicine, etc. Now, we know that over the years that a lot of Haitians would have come to our shores illegally. I think a few years ago we had a few that we held somewhere in one of the community centers. And so that is going to be a challenge. What I believe persons would now want to flee Haiti in droves. And we must understand that Haiti, or St. Kitts Nevis rather, can fit into Haiti just about 230 times, thereabout. And with a population of 11.45 million, to our small population, we understand what is happening. The minister spoke to 2,000, but 2,000 as a percentage of Haiti's population is basically nothing. We look at Jamaica with a population of 2.28 million. We understand what is happening if they were to come to our shores. Now, the question would be, when our CARICOM nationals are deported from maybe the UK the US, what become of them? Do they go back to their land of their birth?
That's the policy.
And after they go back to the land of their birth, how long they have to stay there before they can move again? Most persons who are deported would have some criminal record. And we understand how easily they can come and probably influence us here in our small society of St. Kitts Nevis. So these are things that we probably need to guard against. And as I said initially, I believe that the leaders of the CARICOM, especially our small island states, we probably need to ask for more time so we could have a better understanding the impact data could come to the fore, hence our leaders could make a more informed decision. Webbo.
Well, I would say this. We are at a particular juncture, and based on the work that has been done by our leaders, I'm talking about St. Kitts Nevis, we are now more or less the envy of the Caribbean. Eric Williams, as the former late Prime Minister of Trinidad
and Tobago,
stated 1 from 10 leaves 0. And therefore, it means that they had oil, Jamaica has bauxite.
Windward Island had bananas also.
Well, we can grow bananas too. We got plenty of land space. But those two commodities that I've just mentioned are unique to those two countries. They didn't want us at the time. So my prediction or my appreciation is based on the current regime we have. We are looking for those skills that we don't have in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we don't mind having a few people coming from sparsely Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, maybe Guyana, as the case might be, coming to St. Kitts Nevis with the skills to help us where we are at that plateau. Our country right now must not adhere to the pressures that being put on it in terms of such a short timetable to come up with a decision to accept the pressure and the regime that the rest CBI, the rest of the CBI countries are attempting to put the kind of pressure. And as a result, I would advocate the acceptance of the current regime and give us more time for us to digest where we are and to navigate through the turbulence that an influx of CBI countries, CBI citizens, CBI residents. Again, give us more time. The 31st of March is right upon us. It's imminent. And for them to attempt to thrust upon us because we look good, because it seems that our wage scale is higher, Again, let us understand the phrase 1 from 10 leaves 0. We're not going. I hope the Prime Minister is up to the task, which I believe he is, to understand the far-reaching ramifications on the health system, the political system, the social system within our small island states, St. Kitts and Nevis. Therefore, they must give us more time. So this clarion call goes out to Prime Minister Joe. Don't let the CBI countries, rest of the CBI countries, push us into accepting an influx of Caribbean nationals from throughout. So, give us more time.
I think it was the ambassador to CARICOM of St. Kitts and Nevis, Larry Vaughan, who suggested and that a possible option could be that there be a transition period. I think that he quoted, I think it was 3 years. I think that that is a reasonable position, whereby you can use that time frame to not only see what would be some of the adjustment that you would need to make within the structure of education, healthcare, social services, and those kind of things. I believe that other territories would welcome that kind of transition period. I know Antigua's position was they wanted to basically hold fast to the skills regime that is currently in place. And perhaps then we can look at a possible position as what St. Kitts and Nevis is suggesting of a transition period of 3 years. But I think that this is something that I feel would take quite a number of legislative changes in all of the territories, because there are certain protocols within each territory that would need to be amended, would need to come in line, and I don't think that the time frame, it would almost mean that a lot of these territories, all of them would have to be in Parliament for the next 2 to 3 weeks to amend a lot of their legislations and protocols and things like that. But the time frame that they're talking about, I think it's right here, and I don't think that a lot of the territories would be able to be in a position to meet that timeline.
I want to concur, Honorable, because it would have, substantial amount of changes that would have to be made to our local laws in order to accommodate, the changes that would come into being. Another point I want to bring to the fore also is that currently Guyana and Venezuela, they have a dispute of land with the Essequibo, and the Essequibo region that Guyana owns and Venezuela wants to claim is something like 61,000 square miles, and that's a lot of landmass. And I'm saying this to say, if Venezuela were to succeed, then what happens to those persons living in that area. When we look at the Caribbean region, throughout the Caribbean, we realize that there are a lot of Guyana nationals living amongst us. And with free movement of people, and in what I am picturing in my head, because I do not believe that Maduro is going to go to the table and discuss. I would prefer if he does that, but for some reason I do not believe, based on the evidence, what is happening at the borders. I believe that a war might be imminent. And so what happens? What happens now to St. Kitts Nevis, Antigua Barbuda? I mean, these are things that we have to ponder on. These are things that our leaders, current affairs, that our leaders need to look at, to digest, and understand the economic impact that it would have on our smaller island states moving forward.
I think that a war between Venezuela and Guyana has been averted.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm subjected to correction.
And I believe the matter can be resolved based on tradition, based on mediation, and based on current aspects of the world arbitration system, maybe in Geneva, that the advice had been given for Venezuela and Guyana to mutually agree to a settlement, an arrangement, or maybe I used the wrong word, settlement, but an arrangement where the Court of Arbitration, maybe in Geneva, Switzerland, can apply some pressure on both parties to again come to an arrangement for an amicable settlement.
Well, I just wanted to point out to Roger that there was a meeting, I believe, in St. Lucia or St. Vincent last year, December. And out of that meeting, on the same Guyana Venezuela dispute, out of that meeting it was made very clear that the Caribbean is a region of peace. And both territories recognize how important it is for the Caribbean to maintain that status and that status as a region of peace. A number of Caribbean leaders attended that meeting. Actually, I think our Prime Minister, in the midst of his budget presentation, flew to that meeting and came back. It shows the importance of dialogue, especially when it comes to disputes. This dispute is something that has been going on for many years, right? Mr. Stanley spoke about resolution, agreement,
arrangement,
whatever you want to call it. The difficulty, Mr. Stanley, that I am having, and I've said it here before, that here it is that Guyana have now discovered this little thing that we call oil. But it's not a little thing for Guyana, it's a big thing for Guyana. And all of those many years when Venezuela was reaping the benefit of their oil, Guyana was there looking over and said, well, share some of that with us. Venezuela wasn't taking on Guyana. Now it is that Guyana appears to have found some of the same resource that Venezuela had for many years and have sold to the world for many years. We in St. Kitts and Nevis would have benefited from that, the Caribbean Petro-Carib arrangement. We benefited. But I find, Mr. Stanley, that it is kind of difficult for me to accept that Guyana now needs to think about an arrangement appeasing Venezuela, because Venezuela is threatening them and Venezuela is a much more... I think it's unfair.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'd just like to put into the mix. This debate also must include is not just having the resources, because Haiti has a ton of resources, and we heard the situation there. These other people, including Guyana has discovered oil, but Jamaica and Trinidad and stuff, they still have the resources.
Yes.
But the management of it, under the heading of something they call politics, is what have the things like that.
Yes.
And that is part of the mix that is not being included. So it's not a matter, and the islands, which seem to be doing a little better now, they're still as poor as we were.
Yeah.
But it is the management of it that we've been able to do, which make us the way we are now. And perchance going forward, the management gets differently worse, it will be the same situation.
Quite so. The point is that it is predicated...
Let me get this person quickly. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening, everybody. Good night.
Good evening.
I'm here listening to the program, right? And let me tell you something. Now, Madeira and President Ali, things are going on in the other part of the world, like Ukraine, in Russia, in Africa, where there's a war, in the Middle East, down in Israel, and the Palestinians. And we want to tell me, well, peace and land with some oil. They're going to cause a war for that? I don't think that we in the Caribbean or in the West Indies should let that happen. And I do not think America or across my country alone should let that happen. Just for it to go for it was falling peace a little land with some little oil. And Venezuela don't have oil already as far as I'm concerned. All right then.
Okay, thank you very much. Edric, you got the last word.
Well, based on what's happening again in Haiti, Washington has proposed $300 million to ensure or to assist in ameliorating or managing the current affairs in Haiti. Hopefully, the madness must stop. We, through the mic of Von Radio, have made several clarion calls that the leaders of the Caribbean should ensure that immediately something should have been done in Haiti with regard to the coming together of all the parties and the powers that be to come up with a solution for the gang problem in Haiti. Sadly, it never occurred. Webbo.
Brian, go ahead.
Webbo, Haiti has been a long-standing issue for many years. And the extra effort that would needs to be put into Haiti to bring this country back would be significant. I think that there is a lot of country with some goodwill to see Haiti turn around, but a lot of it, Webbo, has to start within Haiti itself. Webbo, you spoke about the management or the mismanagement. I think that a lot of that has to come from within Haiti itself to ensure that whatever efforts are being made to turn Haiti around can be long lasting.
The thing is that there are many players who are onlookers, but they're not participants in bringing about or recommending a solution to the problem.
That's the last word. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock, following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Thursday evening at 8 o'clock, join Keith Scarborough for Government at Work. Place to spend all your evenings right here in the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, part that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers. With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VO